Americans eat 2.5 billion pounds of beans every year, 7.5 pounds per person. On any given day, 1 in 7 people in this country is eating them right now. You grab a can, open it, dump it in a bowl. 90 seconds. Done. But getting those beans from a field into that can require more precision than you would guess. Sorting machines that scan every single bean and reject the bad ones in milliseconds. A cooking method where the beans never leave the sealed can. A process so automated that no human hand touches a single bean. A shelf life measured in years. No refrigeration, no preservatives, no air. The whole thing costs about $1. And according to the United States government, what is inside that can is no longer just a vegetable. For decades, the government called beans a vegetable, side dish, something next to the rice. Then in 2025, a federal advisory committee looked at the nutrition data and said, no, beans are protein. Put them next to chicken. Put them next to beef. And when you compare the price, it gets interesting. A can of beans costs about $1. 24.5 grams of protein. A pound of chicken breast, same dollar, same protein. Ground beef doubles that. Steak triples it. Worldwide, the canned bean market is now worth $7.2 billion and climbing. North America buys over 40%. The cheapest protein on the shelf, and the government is only now catching up. Here is the thing nobody tells you. It starts with dry beans, kidney, black, pinto, navy, sourced from Michigan, North Dakota, Idaho. Michigan has been the center of American bean production since the 1800s. The beans arrive at the plant in bulk, trucks unloading thousands of pounds into steel hoppers. They pour onto a conveyor belt. Above the belt, high-speed cameras and lasers scan every single bean. Discolored, insect-damaged, immature, misshapen. A puff of precision air, and the bad bean vanishes. Thousands of decisions per second. A blur of brown and black streaming past lenses faster than any human eye could follow. This technology was invented in 1932 in Michigan for beans. Today, the entire global food sorting industry, coffee, rice, nuts, recycling plastics, traces its commercial origins back to bean processing. The sorted beans drop into soaking tanks, 8 to 16 hours in water. The soaking room is quiet. Rows of steel tanks, still water, the faint smell of wet earth. The beans roughly double in size. They go in hard as pebbles. By morning, they are soft enough to dent with your thumbnail. Then comes blanching. Hot water at 90 degrees Celsius for several minutes. This step softens the surface, but it does something else, something most people never learn. Blanching strips out the sugars your gut cannot break down, the ones responsible for gas. This is why canned beans cause less gas than beans you cook at home. The factory does the work your kitchen skips. That bloating you blame on beans? Blame your cooking method. After blanching, machines fill each can with beans and brine, water, salt, and a firming agent that keeps them from turning to mush. The filling line clanks and hums. Cans slide past in tight rows, each getting the same measured pour. Every can, same weight, same proportion. The cans are vacuum sealed shut. From this moment, the beans never touch air again until you open the lid. Sealed cans enter the retort. Pressure builds. 121 degrees Celsius. Up to 4 hours depending on the can. Steam hisses through the chamber. The air smells like hot metal and starch. Inside that sealed can, raw beans are being cooked and sterilized at the same time. They entered hard and pale. They come out soft, dark, and ready to eat. The beans in your pantry have never seen daylight since the day they were canned. After the retort, rapid cooling with pressurized water. Any can that bulges gets pulled. Something went wrong inside. Labeling, boxing, distribution, shelf stable for 2 to 5 years. No refrigeration needed. That is the process today. But people have been eating beans longer than they have been growing wheat. 10,000 years ago, someone in what is now Israel planted a bean on purpose, one of the oldest acts of farming ever recorded. Before wheat, before rice, Egyptians packed beans into their pharaohs' tombs, food for the dead. Beans were not a side dish, they were survival. Then there was Pythagoras, the mathematician. He banned his followers from eating beans, touching beans, or walking through a bean field. Why? He buried beans in soil, dug them up weeks later, and believed they looked like tiny human bodies. To him, eating a bean was eating a person. And according to legend, that belief cost him his life. Cornered by enemies, his only escape was through a bean field. He refused to cross it. He would rather be caught than crush a single plant. And modern medicine has a hard time laughing that off. There is a blood condition common in the Mediterranean, exactly where Pythagoras lived, that makes fava beans genuinely deadly. Ancient fear or ancient knowledge? Nobody has settled that. The modern canned bean business has a simpler beginning. 1936. A Spanish immigrant named Prudencio Unanue lands in Lower Manhattan. The Spanish Civil War cuts off his supply from home. He pivots to Moroccan sardines, finds a can labeled Goya, buys the name for $1. Today, Goya is the largest Hispanic-owned food company in the United States. That $1 name is now worth more than $1 billion. Here is where the story flips. Most people treat canned beans as the lazy option. The shortcut. Dried beans, soaked overnight, cooked from scratch. That is supposed to be the real way. But here's what nobody mentions about that real way. Home-cooked beans keep the sugars that cause bloating. Your kitchen skips the blanching step entirely. A stovetop cannot hit the pressure and temperature of a retort. And the moment you boil dried beans in an open pot, nutrients start leaving with the steam. The can is not the compromise. For beans, the can is the upgrade. So you know how they are made. You know where they came from. That can in your pantry. What should you actually do with it? Beans are the humblest thing on the shelf. Nobody posts beans on Instagram. There is no small batch artisanal can with a founder's story on the label. But beans fed pharaohs, stumped a mathematician, started an entire sorting industry. And right now, they are quietly becoming the answer to a simple question. Where do I get more protein without spending more money? Here is what most people get wrong. They open the can and dump everything straight into the pot. That liquid carries almost half the sodium. Rinse and drain. 30 seconds under the tap. Less sodium. Less gas, too. Rinsing washes out sugars the factory did not fully remove. And that cloudy liquid you have been pouring down the sink? A software engineer, not a chef, discovered in 2015 that it replaces eggs. 3 tablespoons of chickpea liquid equals 1 egg. Meringues. Mayonnaise. Mousse. You have been throwing away vegan gold. 10,000 years. Pharaohs to philosophers to pressure cookers. And it still costs less than $1. That can you opened in 90 seconds? 10,000 years of history, 7 steps of engineering, and $1's worth of protein. Now you know what is sealed inside it. That is the process. We reveal how things actually work, one story at a time. If there is something you would like us to explore next, let us know. Until then, trust the process.